Jeff Brohm led team is always going to be fun, and the Louisville Cardinals should be no exception to that this year. This is a team that finished 10-4, made a really fun run in 2023, and now they are back to potentially make another one. It's going to be a little bit different this year. This is going to be a more underrated group in the ACC. But again, if it's Jeff Brohm leading the show, I trust what that group is going to do. Before we dive into the Louisville Cardinals, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video. Goes a long way in helping the channel grow. It goes a long way in helping this series continue. And it's been really fun to see how well this series has done. You all have really liked it. So let's keep going with it. We'll dive into the Louisville Cardinals here. And obviously, everything starts with Brohm. And Brian Brohm is going to be the offensive coordinator. So you have two really good offensive minds. And you saw what happened last year. Now you're going to have to replace the quarterback position, the running back position, as well as multiple other players on that offense. So that's going to be interesting. But then also you have a defense that needs to replace plenty of players. But I think that the handful that you have returning, as well as the transfer portal, should leave room for optimism. You also have some concerns because of the transfer portal. You added certain players like Penny Boone, Jermaine Lowell, like, have guys that have come in at one point and now are off at different schools. You also lose some key players in the NFL draft. You lose some key players to other schools as well. I think though they brought in some talented players that are going to probably fly under the radar, maybe not the biggest names, but then you also get guys like Corey Thornton, who is solid for UCF, but maybe not a name that people are gushing over. Jaleel Skinner coming from Miami, that was another guy that could be a big time player. Then you get guys like Ja'Cory Brooks. Now, Ja'Cory Brooks at his peak at Alabama was one of the best receivers in college football. So can you get him back to that point? Colin Lacey was a stud for South Alabama. That was a huge addition. And then you get some defensive backs like Tamarian McDonald, Tavion Nicholson. You have a lot of options coming into this program. It's just that you also lost some players that maybe you would have liked to keep. So we'll see what happens. I think that this is still a very talented team. I believe that Jeff Brohm knows what he's doing. I mean, at worst, when you look at his teams at Purdue, you have maybe a potential to be a team that flies under the radar and surprises some people this year. That's maybe what Louisville is going to be, but we'll find out. It's going to start with the quarterback position, though. And then you look at getting Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech. I think that people were excited about it, and I think that the staff likes what they have. And when Tyler Shuck is healthy, he is really fun to watch. He is a talented quarterback who is very capable of making big time throws and being a threat both with his arm and with his legs. The problem is that he does not stay healthy. He has not played a full season of college football, and that is going to be the talking point for the rest of his career. For this entire year, it's going to be, can he stay healthy? Can he play an entire year? Because if the answer is yes, this is going to be a fun offense to watch. You have plenty of talent at the wide receiver position. You have talent at the quarterback position. So you're going to have a passing attack that'll be really fun. And a passing attack that could take a step forward. They finished 57th in passing last year, which is not bad, but you want to see them take maybe a little step forward if the rushing attack isn't going to have a Jawar Jordan running the ball. But that being said, Tyler Shuck has to stay healthy. Now you have Pierce Clarkson behind him. You could also see Harrison Bailey and Brady Allen. You have competition behind him. But Tyler Shuck is the most talented quarterback on this team. But again, can you stay healthy? So far, the answer has been no to that question. That is the biggest concern surrounding Louisville football this year is can he stay healthy and can he stay on the field enough to be an impact player? Because if you're not on the field, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you're going to hurt your team because you're not playing. So that's going to be the biggest thing. The rushing attack is going to have to find some replacements. When you look at the running backs that they lost last year, there's a big reason why they finished 38th in rushing. And now you need to find new starters and you need to find new contributors. Donald Chaney comes in from Miami. They expect him to be the starter there, to be the bell cow, if you will. Maurice Turner is going to play a factor as well. And then you look at like a freshman like Isaac Brown. They expect big things from him. And with the uncertainty of the running back position, he is someone that could become more of a contributor, could become more of a factor in that rushing attacking. And this offense has talent. I trust what the Brahms are going to do with this offense. But again, you need certain players to step up and you need guys to stay healthy. That's probably the biggest thing there. We talked about the passing attack and how good it can be. Obviously, Shuck plays a huge role in that. But I really like what this group has in terms of potential because you kind of have guys that are flying under the radar right now. Not been many people know who Chris Bell is. People know who Ja'Cory Brooks is, but they're kind of they've kind of forgotten about him and what he's capable of doing. Colin Lacey comes from the group of five, so I think a lot of people are uncertain about what he's capable of doing. Mark Redmond at tight end comes in from the group of five from San Diego State. So you have a group of players that are going to fly under the radar because people just don't know who they are or they're not on their mind right now. Now I think that Ja'Cory Brooks, if there's a guy who can get him back to that level, it's going to be Jeff Brohm. This staff knows how to create explosive playmakers at the wide receiver position, and Corey Brooks is a great candidate to be a I don't want to say breakout because he already had his breakout year, but re-breaking out to break out again. Colin Lacey, can he handle the transition to the ACC? That's going to be the biggest question for him. There are certain players that I think can handle it, and I believe that Colin Lacey is one of those guys. And when you ask a lot of people in the college football community, they expect that as well. Behind them, Antonio Meeks, Tuskegee transfer could be a fun player to watch. Again, another guy that flies under the radar, which is kind of what I like about Jeff Brom teams. They get players that not a lot of people are paying attention to. There's really been that's like the most of what we talked about, besides of guys like George Karlaftis and Rondell Moore, you have certain players like that they're able to get, but for the most part, it's a bunch of unknown players that are just exceeding expectations. Jaden Thompson could be a factor as well this year if one of those guys can't handle it. Jimmy Calloway is also a solid depth piece behind them as well. Behind Redmond, we talked about Jalil Skinner. I think that he could be really fun to watch. And Jalil McClain, a redshirt freshman, is also in the mix there as well. So you have options at the pass catchers. And again, this is a group that's going to fly under the radar. People are not really paying attention to them, which is fine. I think that Louisville likes being in that spot where they're ready to shock the world. And Jeff Brom is more than capable of doing that. If he can get his team to buy in together and find ways to play together, then you're looking at a team that's going to be really fun and could shock some big names in 2024. The offensive line, obviously, plays a big role in that as well. And this is a group that has good experience and has plenty of talent. Now you bring in a couple of players from the transfer portal, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. The tackle position specifically, Monroe Mills and Rasheed Miller. Mills comes in from Texas Tech. Miller comes in from Georgia Southern. Both of them are capable starters for sure, and they'll have some competition behind them. Trevante Sylvester should be a factor on the offensive line as well, and Jonathan Mendoza's Yale transfer that could see some time as well. So the tackle positions are going to be set and really interesting to watch. Whoever replaces Brian Hudson probably is going to be the biggest question. The center position is so important, and we'll see what happens there. You have a couple of options. You have Pete Nigra there, and you also have Victor Cutler coming in from ULM. So you have plenty of options there. It's just, can you meet that level that Hudson left? And that's going to be a big question. Renato Brown is the best player on this offensive line, if you ask my opinion. He's an experienced player that will be a staple for this offense. So again, this offense has plenty of options. The offensive line, to me, is in good hands. They have plenty of experience. They have plenty of talent. It's just finding ways to gel. And how do you get back to what we saw from this group last year? This has been a really good offensive line for Louisville the past few years. So I think they continue that trend there. You also, like I said, you bring in transfers that are going to help that. Miller is really fun to watch. Mills is going to be fun as well. Lance Robinson was a very underrated transfer coming in from Houston. They all had a couple other players that departed, but you have again plenty of options to be a successful offense in 2024. The defense is probably where things get the most interesting because you lost a couple players that were big time contributors. I also really like this group heading into 2024. Ashton Gelati is going to be one of the most exciting players, one of the most explosive players on Louisville's team and in the ACC. He's a big time threat on the edge, 6'3", 275 pounds, had 14 and a half tackles for a loss, 11 sacks, three forced fumbles. He is someone that everyone knows, and that opens things up for players around him. So guys that are going to thrive are going to be at the Leo position. You're going to see the defensive tackle, nose tackle positions thrive because everyone knows who he is, and that's going to require extra attention thrown his way. So guys like Thor Griffith and Jordan Garrad coming in from Harvard and FIU respectively, those are guys who will really thrive. And this is a group that was extremely explosive and disruptive, especially against the run. They finished 10th against the run last year, and it's easy to see why. Now behind Pilati is going to be Richard Kinley Jr., or the second, excuse me, Middle Tennessee transfer, 6.5 tackles for loss, three sacks. You're going to see him, not quite a bit, but if Jelani needs a break, you're going to see him. Desmond Tell could compete for starting time at the nose tackle position, and Raymond per year is going to be a factor at defensive tackle, could be the starter as well. So you have good depth at defensive line. And that's a group that needs to be deep and needs to be talented because if you're disruptive, you're going to open things up for the guys behind you and also slow teams down. And as you can see, this has been a really fun group. The last couple years, Louisville's defense has been one of the more exciting groups to watch, and that should be the case once again this year, especially up front. The linebackers should be no different. TJ Quinn comes back after a 92 tackle season. He also had 2.5 tackles for loss, one interception, and one fumble recovery. So you have a natural playmaker who returns to this team, a guy that's taking a step forward. It's Danquan Clark, someone who is not as experienced as TJ Quinn, but someone who the staff expects big things from in 2024. Miles Jernigan is another player that fits that role as well, coming in from Cal, looking to get a little bit more experience and more playing time this year to play a little bit bigger role. Behind them is really where the depth is not going to be a question because I think they have good pieces. Jurian Davis and TJ Capers come in with various levels of experience, but you're looking at two guys that are expected to be depth pieces for that group. Mason Rieger, 22 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. He is someone that could also take over the Leo position. He will push Jernigan for that spot. So this is a linebacker group and a defensive line. So this front six, if you will, they are going to be fun to watch. They are going to be a big reason why this team succeeds because of when you look at the talent they have, there's plenty of options. There's plenty of players that can make big time plays. And that's huge for a team that, like I said, is looking to be a better group in or I shouldn't say better. This is a group that's looking to replicate or keep pace with what we saw last year. And the front six plays a huge role in that, but the secondary also needs to continue doing what it's doing. Now, you lost a couple players, but you also returned plenty of experience. So getting a guy like Quincy Riley back was a little bit surprising, honestly. I don't think a lot of people expected him to return to Louisville this year in 2024. So that was nice. The safety positions are set. MJ Griffin is set to have, I think, a bounce back year after missing last year. And when you look at Devin Neal, he is a productive player from last year. 74 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions. So you have a couple of ball hawks on the back end of that defense that are capable of making plays. Then you also had Corey Thornton at the other cornerback position, another player who knows how to make plays on the football. And that's huge. Benjamin Perry probably will have the most eyes on him because he's inheriting a new role where you maybe don't have. I think teams are going to definitely test him a little bit more because he's the most unproven player, I guess, of this. And this is a talented secondary where if you're the unproven guy, that's a good thing because Perry still had 56 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended. So he has experience, but if you're going to pick on someone, I think teams would probably look his way. But again, I wouldn't say that's something that's a guaranteed success because he's had the experience and he knows what's going to be thrown his way. Behind them, maybe it has the more questions, if you will. When you look at Tayon Holloway, is a North Carolina transfer that is a backup there. Illinois transfer Tavion Nicholson will be really interesting to watch. at certain positions at the cornerback position. I think that's Tamarian McDonald, Tennessee transfer, Blake Ruffin coming in from Eastern Illinois. So you have options behind some of these players. So the secondary feels like it's in good hands. And if you can take a step forward in the secondary and defending the pass, then you're looking at a much better group in 2024. And again, this has been a secondary that's kind of flown under the radar in the college football world, but they've also proven to be very disruptive and create turnovers. As you can see, Riley and Neal have a combined 7 interceptions coming back. Corey Thornton's playing in a different conference, but he has 3 interceptions there. So you have guys that are capable of making plays. It's just a matter of replicating that and then getting other guys behind you up to speed. Strengths and concerns for Louisville should be pretty easy to identify. The strengths to me, the defensive line. Really, you just put the defense here, honestly. Just put the entire defense as a strength. I think that they're still going to be really good, even with some of the new faces that they bring in. The defensive line has obviously a couple new pieces that need to step up. So keep an eye there. The offensive line starters, to me, are a strength. Maybe the concerns behind them would be the depth pieces, but I don't really have too many concerns about that. Running back is probably a concern. When you lose the talent that you lost last year, you're going to need to find new players, and until further notice, that's going to be a concern. To me, quarterback is a concern simply because the X factor for this team is Shuck's health. If Tyler Shuck does not stay healthy, you probably have more concerns about the backups getting the job done. Because if Shuck is healthy, this offense will be really fun to watch. But that's a big if. We have yet to see that, and it'll be fun to see what he can do when he is healthy. But if he can't play a full year, this offense could be a much worse group than if he is healthy, obviously. So that's pretty obvious to me. The schedule is going to be dictated by that X factor. If Shuck stays healthy, you're looking at a team that's capable of winning 9, maybe even 10 games. I think the ceiling to me is 9-3. The floor is 6-6, though, because there's not too many teams that you have concerns about if you're a Louisville fan. The over under is 8.5 as of right now. So that could be a tough number to meet. So if you're a betting person, you're maybe staying away from that number. You should start 2-0. Austin P is going to be a win. Jacksonville State could be a little bit tricky, but Louisville is a team that should win that game. Georgia Tech is expected to be better this year. That's a game that's definitely capable of going the wrong way, but Louisville should win that one. I just trust what Jeff Brohm is doing so much. At Notre Dame, probably going to be a loss, whether you look at it optimistically or pessimistically. But again, like I said before, this feels like a team that could surprise some people. Now, this is a road game, so it's probably not going to happen to this one, but don't count this team out. That's one thing I've learned with Jeff Brohm is you can't count them out. They will win a couple random games that you don't expect this year. SMU at home is very interesting. I don't know what SMU is going to be. They have plenty of talent, so that's going to be a really interesting game. At Virginia should be a win. Miami at home will be tough. That's another one that's probably a loss, but again, Louisville is definitely capable of beating the Hurricanes. At Boston College is very tricky. You also have 3 road games in a row here. At Clemson, obviously tough as well. That's probably a loss. I'd probably actually switch that. It's going to be a loss. At Stanford is a tough road trip. Now you get 2 weeks to prepare for that, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So that should be a win, but we'll see what Stanford looks like towards the end of the year. Pitt at home should be a win. At Kentucky is obviously going to be tough. So again, I think 6-6 is the floor. I don't expect them to take a huge step back. I would probably feel like they're more of a 7-8 win team, to be completely honest. But betting the over feels like not a smart move right now. I think the under is probably the more likely play, but this is still an interesting team to watch. Again, Jeff Brom, I trust what he does so much. He has been a proven coach that knows how to win games and knows how to get his talent to play together. And if they're able to do that, you're looking at a team that's still going to be really fun to watch, a very explosive offense, a defense that's going to be disruptive. And that's a formula for success. It's just a matter of how many wins go into that win column.